Hello people, I'm Tommy, and everybody has something they love, cherish, and can't live without. Something that you cannot fathom losing. Unfortunately for me, I had to learn the hard way, losing the love of my life. I'll never forget you, Aztec.
Counter-Strike, one of the pioneers in the first-person shooter genre, and to this day, one of the best places to gamble your sorrows away. Originally a mod for the game Half-Life, the creators of Half-Life Valve would bring in those who worked on the mod in order to make it into a full game. That game would eventually become the first installment in the Counter-Strike series, and the game would be released on the PC on November 8th, 2000. And throughout the years, the Counter-Strike series would continue to evolve, with the most recent entry in the series, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, still going strong after 10 years. But there is a piece of Counter-Strike history that is largely overlooked: the console ports. Although Valve games are heavily associated with PC gaming, many of their games have been ported to consoles, but the two versions of Counter-Strike on consoles seem to get swept under the rug the most. It's time to take a look at one of Valve's most popular franchises and see how they handled the home console experience. Released in North America on November 9th, 2003, and in Europe on December 5th, 2003, Counter-Strike for the original Xbox. Despite what the box says, this game actually has much more in common with Counter-Strike's sequel, Condition Zero, a game that was being developed around the same time as the Xbox release. As Condition Zero kept getting delayed and was eventually pushed back to a 2004 release, the Xbox version of Counter-Strike introduced mechanics that would become Counter-Strike staples. Features include buying weapons on a wheel, which we see today on CSGO, and this being the first Counter-Strike game to introduce bots into the series. One of the biggest additions planned for both Condition Zero and the Xbox version was the inclusion of a single-player mission mode. Although single-player would eventually be implemented into Condition Zero under the Deleted Scenes moniker, single-player was completely scrapped altogether on the Xbox version, with the only thing being able to do by yourself is fight bots. But the main reason for Counter-Strike being on the original Xbox in the first place was for online play with Xbox Live. Let's try it. So, unfortunately, we are unable to experience the online for Counter-Strike, as the online was shut down in April of 2010. Not even local multiplayer supported, so no split screen. What a shame. In terms of maps, you've got many of the Counter-Strike staples. You got your Dust 2s, your Cobbles, your Italys, the almighty Aztec, and the only map in the history of Counter-Strike to be console exclusive, CS Miami. A map where instead of being Ts versus CTs, it's cops versus bank robbers. Other than that, it's a standard hostage rescue map, and since this isn't Office, it is automatically ass. In terms of its similarities to Counter-Strike, this game is indeed Counter-Strike, just with a controller. But is there any reason to play this version over the PC version of Counter-Strike? Fuck no. Look, I can see why people would play this game back in 2003. 1 month after this game was released, Saddam Hussein was captured. Not saying there's a correlation there, but Counter-Strike is the reason Saddam Hussein was captured. But if you're really craving for an early 2000s Counter-Strike experience, just play Condition Zero. Looks better, plays better, and they're still online. Playing with bots can only be fun for so long, and the main reason to play Counter-Strike on Xbox is inaccessible. And if you're really thirsting to play Miami, you can just download the map and play it on PC with actual people. It's a fun novelty now, but other than that, there is no reason to play this game anymore. Jumping over a generation, now we have Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Although associated with PC nowadays, CSGO's early history does originate on consoles, as the game was originally just going to be a console port of the game Counter-Strike Source, until being reworked into a brand new installment for the series. Arriving day and day with the PC release, CSGO would be released on both PS3 Store and the Xbox Arcade. Comparing the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions, CSGO on the PS3 has a few more features, such as keyboard and mouse support, and also supports the PlayStation Move, which is just the PS3 Wiimote, while the Xbox 360 has none of that. Now, the PC version of the game is still receiving updates to this day. However, for CSGO on console, this thing has been super abandoned, and has seen little to no updates since launch, meaning CSGO on Xbox 360 and PS3 have seen no updates in 10 years. Because of that, the PC and console versions are quite different. No weapon customization, skins, stickers, anything like that. Another blow to this game is that unlike the Xbox port, this game was only available digitally, lessening the novelty of owning this game. So if you want the short answer, there is absolutely zero reason to play CSGO on console. Valve cared so little about this port that it probably would have been better off if it wasn't released at all. But as somebody who loves me some CSGO, this game is really fascinating to me. Playing this game is like getting sent back to 2012 when CSGO first came out. Guns like the R8 revolver didn't even appear, and maps that would be changed later on would retain their original launch builds. So if you want to take a stroll down the original version of Nuke, you can see that the old map used to look like a public restroom. Maps that Valve removed, like Aztec, are still in the console versions. But what about the online? And luckily, the servers are still up. And during my documentation of the world of CSGO on console, I met a lot of interesting people, like this guy who has a Minecraft dog profile picture, and this guy whose mic was on the whole time and yet refused to say anything. Unfortunately, those encounters would be short-lived, because the bane of all CSGO 360 players occurred, randomly getting disconnected. For legacy reasons, CSGO on console is interesting, and if you're really interested in some obscure piece of Counter-Strike's history, maybe give it a try. Now in terms of playing this game for the gameplay, no. This is a smaller, buggier controller holding lesser man's CSGO. There is no reason to play this game for any competitive aspect, even some modes are blocked behind just single player. Nowadays, it can just be seen as a version of Counter-Strike that Valve sank the second it set sail. Unlike the other Valve games on console, which still had some merit for being on console, the Counter-Strike series just refused to take off on these platforms. I'm sure there are people that are nostalgic about this game, no doubt, but you'll be hard-pressed to find genuine people saying this is the superior way to play Counter-Strike. Like said before, these games are just novelties nowadays, completely obsolete when compared to the far superior PC versions. If Valve cared and supported these games, specifically CSGO, updating it alongside the PC version for even a little bit, maybe this game would have taken off more on home consoles. But abandoning the game practically on day one sealed this game's fate as a forgotten piece of Valve's history.
Well, that was lame. Such a popular franchise that failed to capture an audience on other pieces of hardware. But now, if you excuse me, it's time for me to run over to my computer while I continue my downward spiral while reminiscing about the good old days. Those liars said they'd bring back my Aztec. 5 years, Valve, and all you've given me is a f***ing purple Nova!